So we spoke about Bitcoin in our previous episode. Not Bitcoin, cryptocurrency as a whole, what blockchain is, what Bitcoin is, the halving, the mining, the rewards. There's a part of that conversation that we want to carry on that touches on the limitations and the uses of Bitcoin. Now, cryptocurrency, you said it's digital money or coded money. So with that, you have different types of transactions, or I could be using the wrong words, apologies, but there's different limitations and different positives than our normal currency that we have. And just want to make it very clear before we continue this discussion that anything we do discuss today is not financial advice. Do not take it as financial advice. It's just information, general information that we're looking to provide on cryptocurrency. But let's go over the limitations and the use cases and limitations of Bitcoin.
Yeah, well said. I think let's cover the limitations of Bitcoin, and then that way you can understand what the use cases and stuff is. So in a real world environment, right, Bitcoin, if you were to use it to buy your groceries, it could take around 10 minutes or something to transact. And if you think about that, imagine just waiting 10 minutes at the grocery store for it to verify your transactions. That's not really practical, to be able to, per transaction, waiting 10 minutes, especially in a very fast-pacing environment we're in these days, where everything's instant. The idea of few seconds or even few minutes enrage someone. So
oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm very impatient. If my transaction doesn't go through within 5 seconds, I'm calling my bank.
Exactly.
No, I'm not doing that. But no, you can't quite. It is a frustrating process. I think we're just so used to just getting things done so quickly now.
Yeah,
everything that we're just so. It makes sense, but sorry, keep going.
No, yeah, definitely. And another thing is Bitcoin cannot handle large volume of transactions simultaneously. It has around 500 million transactions per day, which sounds like a lot. But then if you think about the world as a whole, that's really probably not a lot at all. Entire world, it'll probably be trillions or something. So it's not really scalable in that sense. And another thing that I did mention was that it's not Turing complete. And what Turing complete means, its ability of computational system, its ability to simulate computational systems. So in other words, being able to perform a certain algorithm or function. That's why I was saying Bitcoin is very limited in terms of its programming language. The only thing the language does is that it's used to encode conditions under which a transaction can be spent, and that's because of the reason why it's only limited to just that is because they wanted to maximize security and prevent stuff like people being able to code harmful loops from occurring, and I guess that's why it limits the idea of advanced transaction conditions. It's if this happened, if I'm just giving an example, right? This doesn't really exist, but if the weather changes or something, if it's sunny or something, buy me an ice cream, something like that. That's there's preconditions that I've placed for it to transact. For example, it's not really a good example I can think of, but
can you provide a better example? Can you think of a better example?
But
is it there's an event, but there has to be supplements to that event that need to be met?
Yeah, there's preconditions.
Preconditions to that event that needs to be met in order for it to be successful.
To be successful, yeah.
Cool.
So this is the idea of smart contracts. That's what Bitcoin doesn't have. That's why that is something more of Ethereum that we'll go over another time. And I'll try to think of better examples for that.
Yeah, that's okay.
But
I've sort of put you on the spot there.
No, that's all right. I think
so. It's preconditions that need to be met to that event for it to be successful.
For it to trigger, yeah.
Cool.
That's correct. So Bitcoin doesn't have those things. And as a result, that's why you don't see things like hacks and things like that in Bitcoin. You hear about Ethereum and all these other things. but you don't really hear it in Bitcoin because its programming language is very limited. So now that we know like these are the limitations of the design of Bitcoin, because it wanted to focus on decentralization, which we meant as like distributed governance of a network and things like that, and security. How do you, I guess, make it more useful, like practical? So, I mean, there are a number of solutions that are already being built on top of Bitcoin as we speak. So say, for example, we want to increase the number of transactions that happen, right? There's this idea of something called L2s. So it's called layer 2s. So as I mentioned before, Bitcoin lacks scalability. So layer 2s are like basically built on top of Bitcoin, and they basically aim to address the limitations, because what they do is they basically use a different type of, like they use some algorithms and other types of things in different programming language, which basically allows it to increase its transaction speed and reduces like the fee cost as well. So they basically allow you to transact faster at a cheaper cost, and it offloads the congestion of the network, because instead of it all being on Bitcoin, it now gets offloaded to like another area, you could say. I'll try and explain this like more simpler with an analogy after, but the best way I can explain it in an analogy, actually, I'll say now, is think of Bitcoin as like the busy highway, which is just like one direction.
Yep.
And you have like a lot of volume there, right? A lot of people use the highway regularly. And you can think of the layer 2s as just an alternative lanes or alternative pathways to the direction that you want to get to.
Same destination.
Yeah.
So it's like a bridge built, like, so it's like highway and then another road going this way, another road
it's
going
like
that
you
way.
can think of like the motorways, like the highway, which is like one, it takes a lot of volume, but there might be alternative routes that you can take.
Yeah, okay.
That you can think of as L2s.
And what's the destination in that case then?
I mean, it depends on the use, right? In this case, if it's like me sending money to you,
that's the destination.
Yeah, if it's like me sending money to you and there's like billions of other people that are also sending money to each other, instead of it all being on the same Bitcoin network, I can use like layer 2s, which can reduce the cost, because there's also a fee that I forgot to mention this. You also get like a fee charge of like me like sending transactions, because that fees for like the miners and incentivizing the miners and things like that. So if there's so many people using it at the same time, right, there's high demand on the network, and that means like miners, it takes time to be able to process that many transactions. That creates a clogging. So if we take like layer 2s, then I can use an alternative pathway, and that way the transaction can be sent faster. Yeah, which is offloading some of the load on Bitcoin's network onto you could say the other lanes, the other pathways. So that's what layer 2s are essentially. And then you have there's some other fancy term that goes around. It's called BRC20, which is basically like a new innovation that is like it's basically like a token standard, which allows people to just create and use tokens directly on the Bitcoin blockchain without needing contracts and stuff. You might have heard of something called like ERC20 when you withdraw a deposit or something.
Yeah, no.
Maybe not. Okay.
Sorry.
So it just basically allows people to just create tokens on Bitcoin. So I can create like some PEP meme or something, PEP BTC.
So that's where the meme coins come from.
Yeah, you can think of it like that. Yeah, that's why you might see some like that are called ERC20, like the network they're on. It's just like, you might see like PEP or something, but like that's probably built on top of Ethereum. So that's why when you withdraw it, it's like on Ethereum's network. It's just they had to exchange the Ethereum for like they had to go through some process to then create a token, and they just exchanged the Ethereum for the number of tokens that is equivalent to that. So like, I don't know, like maybe they wanted 10,000 PEP tokens is like equivalent to like one Ethereum or something. So they converted the Ethereum to like 10,000 PEP tokens that they made, and that's why it's just built on top of Ethereum that they created these tokens. So that's really what BRC20 really is. And how does this work is that it's just using something called ordinal protocol, which allows you to inscribe data directly onto the individual satoshis. So satoshi is like a unit of Bitcoin. I forgot what the amount of unit it is. It's like 0.00 something. But it's just a unit you see of Bitcoin basically. So that's how that, and obviously the data provides like the details about the token, such as its total supply and transfer rules or something you might have for BRC20. So that's what really BRC20 and L2s really is. And to go over the analogy again, it's just Bitcoin is just a highway. BRC20 is you can think of as like different vehicles on the highway, or different vehicles that have different use cases that can be like, maybe they're used for like, and we'll go over this another time because it's too many topics in one day, like DeFi, decentralized finance, and then things like,
I've seen a lot of those.
Yeah, you see a lot of those types of things. And then, yeah, there can be a lot of other use cases, games or something, or like
AI.
Yeah, AI even, things like that.
AI coins. So what should I buy? I'm joking. Don't answer that.
But yeah, so there's different products, different use cases, and L2s are just the alternative lanes to reduce traffic.
Yep.
Have allow you to get there quickly, so faster transactions and low fees as well.
Can I ask just a bit of a personal question? What drew you into crypto?
That's a great question. Yeah, I'd say I was always interested in crypto. Like
since when?
Since I would say since like 2017 mainly.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Most of the inspiration interest came from my brother. He was really big about crypto and Bitcoin especially. He always kept telling me like you should. He was in it before me as well, but he always kept telling me about it and how amazing it is and stuff. And I was pretty broke and young back then. I really had nothing. He gave me some crypto back then, and that's when I was experimenting. Back then, I had no clue what I was doing. That's how your first wave goes. You usually have no clue what you're doing, and you just buy whatever you see go up, down. That's it.
Yep.
That's all you really see. But then I think after 2018 and stuff, I thought like when I was reading more into Bitcoin, I was looking into and I was always interested in tech since I was a young age. I was like, wow, this is actually very interesting. No one's really done something like this. It's actually a lot more value in this than any other innovations at that time. And I thought like it really will probably mark something in the future, like or introduce something which is already happening. Like you have central bank digital currencies that are trying to use blockchains and things like that. So, and I think people will really understand the value of it, because I remember back then telling people after the crash happened, 2018. Yeah, people thought I was a joke.
Really?
Yeah, really. In high school, yeah, people thought it was a joke. It's like, oh, what do you mean? Blah blah blah. And I was like, no. If I really had money back then, I would have just bought and just chilled, because I really saw the value in Bitcoin. Scarce, it's liquid. It's just it's self-sovereign. Like I have complete ownership over it, and I could and that also means I have responsibility. If I lose the passcode, no, it's gone basically, and yeah, that's why I was very interested in it. And the interest just grew. I was like, wow, there's more to just Bitcoin. There's like other coins that do different use cases and different things.
Yeah, it seems like it's something that's just expanded a lot over the past 7 years. It blew up a lot in 2017. But seeing where it's gone now, it's just... And seeing where it could go is also quite interesting to see.
It's exciting. Yeah.
It's exciting if you know about it. If you're someone that just like, yep, it's gone up by 10,000 worth, let me leave.
I think that's majority of people, but most of us.
People. I mean, I'm not who am I to virtue signal.
I was gonna say actually, what brought you into crypto? Like, what made you buy your first crypto coin?
Make money.
So it's
nothing about it. I'm being honest.
I think everyone has that as well, of course.
I would say I'm an ignorant investor who's in crypto. That's just the truth.
Do you see like do you see currently like you have more interest in learning about it, or is it just like?
Well, this conversation is a starter. Yeah, yeah. No, 100%. It's something that I've always wanted to learn. I think I've just been lazy not to learn about it. But that's not to say that I can't learn now. There's always a time and place for things, and
I was gonna also ask, like, what prevented you from learning more about it? Is it because it's very overwhelming, very complicated?
Yeah, overwhelming, complicated. Very overwhelming, complicated. I think having someone like you break it down to simple terms makes it very easy to digest. But also, I think the overwhelming of information is the main part. And there's so much information there that you don't know which information is right or wrong to take in. But also, look, at the end of the day, they're all just excuses for fundamentally the fact that I just didn't take action on it. Simple as that. It was just, if I had to look at it fundamentally, none of those excuses or whatever I've put is justified in me not going out of my way to learn it. So yes, overwhelming information, etc., it plays a part, but fundamentally you can still try.
Yeah.
So I never tried.
No, I think it is very overwhelming because I had that as well at the beginning. I'm like, this is so
how did you overcome that? I think if someone wants to learn crypto, I think this is a good place to touch on. I know you were probably going to explain it, but as a question, if I was to pose it, how did you find getting over that?
I've always been interested in like learning. I think that's very important. Like you just always got to be interested in learning, and it's just I'm always drawn into tech, like tech nerd, you could say. So when I was reading about it, I was like, wow, it's very interesting. All these terms, wow, I'm familiar with these things. I've read these things before. So I would say I did have an advantage to some extent because I was in tech and I'm familiar with some terms that they're using, and my interest grew more. But even if I wasn't someone of tech, I'd still be interested to this thing because of like, I think it's just going to be very relevant in the future, which we're already seeing right now. It's getting like more institutional interest and more use cases and stuff are expanding. And if you want to overcome that, you got to just actually, as you said, just put yourself in a state of uncomfort. Like I really had to be like, I have no clue with this and I'm going to sound stupid, but you know what, that's fine. That's where you start and that's where you begin. Ask most ridiculous questions. What is Bitcoin? What is even crypto? What is the difference between crypto and like currency, and what is cryptocurrency? Like you got to break things down. You got to do something called Socratic questioning, which is like you question it to the point that it's like at an atomic level that you understand. Not just like some guy who's explaining online. Their understanding is different. There's gaps between your knowledge, so you got to fill that up. And even if it's uncomfortable and intimidating, you just got to face it. I think you just really gotta be able to be in that environment and just learn and grow as much as you can. And I think in tech in general, there's always that thing that there's always that what do you call it? You always think there's always so much to learn, and you feel like you don't know anything at all. And to us, that's what the feeling is like in tech. So I'm quite used to that feeling of not knowing a lot. Like as in, there's so much that I don't know, and it's very uncomfortable. But you have to then have the humility to learn and grow.
That's a really good point you made. The humility to learn and grow despite not knowing. I think we're so used to just wanting to know everything about everything.
Or showing people that we know everything.
Yeah, but as soon as we get a little uncomfortable not knowing, we're just like, oh, do we really want to know it? And that's what differentiates people.
Yeah,
I definitely agree.
And there's so many resources online you can look at. Like there's so many videos by so many people.
Not financial advice. Yeah, not financial advice.
Not financial advice. But I'm saying like if you just want to learn what Bitcoin is and what blockchain and all these terms mean and is, there's so many resources online you can use. And you got ChatGPT and stuff that breaks things down. Obviously, they don't give financial advice, so they don't like, you know, always do your own research when you're investing or buying anything. But just always understand the fundamental of what you're doing and what you're buying and why it works, why it's valued. Break things down to the molecular level, and don't be afraid of not knowing and sounding ridiculous when you're asking questions. Everyone starts somewhere. Everyone has different gaps of knowledge. You know what? Everyone is actually very average. Like this is the way I think. Like if you were to get like, what I mean by that is, I might be very, you know, tech savvy and I might know a lot about tech, but I have no clue about cooking, to be honest. I'd be a lost individual in a kitchen And I really am. Like when I ask my mom, where's everything? I have no clue what's going on. So if you got like everything about me, there's things that I lack that is lacking about me, that is strengths. I'd be average, just like anyone else. Some guy who knows a lot about cars, but has no clue about tech, has no clue about like philosophy, has no clue about all these different things. You have your strength, but there's things that you don't know at all. So instead of thinking people are like, oh, superior or like whatever, just know that everyone is like overall average. And that way you're not going to be intimidated.
I love that segue. I don't want to drag this conversation too much, but just a quick one. Like, there's something to always learn from someone. Probably the best way to look at it.
Yeah.
You may be an expert in one thing, but not an expert in the other. But that's the beauty of what the world we live in today, is that we can share ideas, we can share different perspectives, share what we know, and understand that, just that sharing of knowledge has become so much better now that you can learn things from halfway across the world. Someone running a tutorial or something, and that's the beauty of it. There's something to learn from someone every time. Whether it's even a child can teach you a lot about life. If you look at it from their perspective, it's a very child, adults, everyone knows something, and it's be curious.
Yeah, definitely couldn't have said it any better, and I definitely agree. So I think that's the type of mentality and mindset I would have
to learn,
and like they call it circle of competence, but I think which is your area of strength, but I think a part of it is like also what you don't know, and I think those areas and things that you don't know is where you develop the questions, and then you find the answers for it, and then once you know, then you end up becoming more and more like confident in what you think about and say and things like that. You become more, you have more conviction essentially.
Perfect. I think we'll wrap up here. But thanks for joining. Thanks for your masterclass today was here. Appreciate it. But great conversations ahead. Thank you. Thanks for listening, everyone. Like, subscribe, follow us for more content ahead.
Yeah. Thanks, Shiv. Thanks, everyone. See you guys on the next one.